Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Inkylesconvo. You know, it's crazy. As I say this every single time, because it's true. It's crazy the response I got since coming back it's blows my mind a little bit. It actually makes me regret stopping it back in May last year. But you know, we all have like life situations, and sometimes life takes over extracurricular activities, as they say. But yeah, today we've actually got quite a motivational person, because considering something he told me about his jobs, that all his companies have went under after all the companies he's worked for have went under after he's joined. It's quite a funny one. It's Chris Aitken. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Kyle.
It's my pleasure, honestly. Now, to start off, I'm curious. You went for a graphic communication management degree in university back at Napier. What was the reason behind that one?
Quite frankly, it was because there was a course at high school which was called graphic communication, and I quite enjoyed it. Didn't really have much clue what I was getting myself into, but because it was linked to it was a bit techie drawing, but also kind of colour and lots of different things. It was quite interesting to me. So the course graphic communication management was kind of linked to printing, but I didn't really realise that at the time. So just went for it, to be honest.
Yeah, is that like you know how you get like the CADs drawn, like CADs for architecture? Is it that type of stuff?
Yeah, it's a mixture of a few things. It was at the time, it was quite close to the start of all the kind of e-publishing, ebooks coming out. It was the kind of the link between moving towards kind of online publishing. So there's a bit of that in it, as well as the kind of techie drawing side and design side. So there's a lot of kind of, I think my final coursework was breaking down a cassette tape. For those that don't know, that's something that just gives the video on, but it kind of shows my age. So it was basically breaking that apart and kind of drawing each of the elements and then showing that in a kind of a way of how that product's been created. So it was quite a wide varying course, but a lot of it was also to do with colour and kind of technology in printing and going into e-publishing as well.
Damn. So you went there and you went from, excuse me, you went to, was it Pellins and Waddies? Is that how you say it?
Pellins and Waddies.
Waddies.
Yeah,
Right.
actually, I joined straight out of uni. So I got quite lucky that there was a position that was it was basically designed for exactly my course, and I managed to get it. Just because I think, although a lot of people at uni had some of the skill sets, but they hadn't really worked properly. So I'd been working as a supervisor in Safeways for 6 years. So I had quite a lot of experience already in management of people and, you know, just kind of working in an environment where some of the others maybe didn't. So I managed to get it, but it was a great job in Leith at the time, coming out of uni at 21. It was a brilliant job. It was all like annual reports, so all the kind of big FTSE 100 companies were printing annual reports at that point. So we basically managed the process and printed them, and had to get them out to customers on time for annual general stuff. So it was really interesting.
Yeah. What made, I know it's maybe not a silly question, but what made you go to uni at 21, or to go at an early age, or was that just naturally the progression?
I think my brother had gone to uni for art college in Dundee, and he moved away from home, and I think that did influence my decision a little bit about what I did. But I stayed at home, whereas he moved away, and I think it was maybe a little bit of fear of the unknown, or it allowed me to work through uni as well. So I already had a job in Safeway, so I was able to kind of have money and, you know, have a roof over my head and not be too dependent on my parents. But at the same time, all my friends and things were around Edinburgh, and I just didn't have that feel of I wanted to go away. I just wanted to stay and do my thing in Edinburgh.
That's fair enough. Well, then you moved on to Summerhall Press as a business improvement. It seems like you moved up the ladder as each company you went to, if I'm correct in saying that.
Yeah, so when I was at Pillins and Wilson and then Pillins and Waddies, as it got combined, I did progress. So I was, you know, by the time I moved on from Pillins and Wilson, I'd been quite a senior manager in Pillins and Waddies, and so moving into Summerhall Press, they were at a position where they were trying to expand. So Pillins and Waddies kind of shut down. There's customers looking for printing, so they kind of took advantage of that and expanded. And it was really just, I helped them expand. I helped them kind of set up the facilities, helped them set up their quality standards and environmental standards, and just kind of work through that process. So it was quite interesting, but it was basically going from a, not quite a shed, but a much smaller facility up to a much bigger facility.
Yeah. What's was this just before we go any further in your career route, was this the route? I know you said it's because it was an interesting course you took in school, but was this the route you naturally seen yourself going in, or was there something else you wanted to be in the school, but you were like, this?
No, I was interested in it, and doing the uni course, I was interested in what I was doing. So yeah, it was exactly where I was wanting to be at that moment in time, and my nature is to try and develop a career path and develop kind of what I've been doing. So I don't like to kind of sit still, and I'm always looking for the next progression. But yeah, when I got that job, it was again relatively senior position within the company, and at the same time, I was still kind of thinking, well, what's my next step?
So then you went on to work for I'm going to get this name wrong, Montgomery. Is it Lethal Limited? Is that how you say it?
Montgomery Lethal, yeah.
Yeah, there's the one. You went on to work for there. Was that still in the printing kind of scene? Yeah. What did that? Was that still in Edinburgh as well?
It was a mix. I was able to base myself in Edinburgh, but I was actually working across Paddington, Glasgow, and Perth sites. It was 3 different sites, and I'd say that was a much harder sell to get myself into that position. It took about 4 or 5 months to really, because there wasn't a job. It was basically talking to the owners and talking to the people that had moved from Summerhall, and then trying to basically get a position for myself. So I wasn't sure that one was going to happen, but it did. And then I was responsible for kind of the 3 sites for all the quality environmental standards for what they were doing, health and safety as well.
How did that's a curious one. How did you manage to convince people? So you convinced them to invent a job just for yourself. How did you manage to do that?
I think it's basically you're talking through what you've done before, and because of the size of the business, they don't have somebody like that in place. It was basically trying to get across the things that I've done, and then also what I can bring to the company in terms of professionalism, and then also the knowledge that I had about building systems and implementing them. So it wasn't so much just the knowledge of actually running a system, it was designing it and implementing it. So training people, influencing people. A lot of what I did had to be influenced, because upshot is nobody really wants these systems, they just want to do the job. So a lot of it, you're having to kind of build up people's trust and get their kind of mindset right for implementing these systems, and maybe taking on some new stuff as well. That's kind of part of what I was doing, was convincing people that it was a good thing, and that also that standards had to be maintained to really progress the company up to a better standard. And ultimately that was the truth. That was honest. They did need it. So yeah, it was a long time coming, but it was because obviously when you're redundant, you're wanting to move into the job as quickly as possible. And obviously if you're thinking that maybe the job's not going to happen, you don't want to waste too much time kind of looking at that and then not finding something else. So I was just very focused on trying to get into a position where I had a job, basically.
If that job didn't pan out and it didn't actually come into fruition, what was your plans then? Or were you like, I don't know what would have happened? Or
yeah, that's a really good question. I'd been in discussions with people about doing consultancy, but it was a real risk. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, consultancy in the field that I was in with quality and environment and health and safety was, at that moment in time, was it would have been a real challenge, I think, in terms of just moving around doing different things, but also then kind of it moves more towards where I am now, where you're trying to convince people you've got that credibility from scratch. So it would have been a challenge, I think, to get going with it, but I'm glad I didn't do it. But it was a thought that I was thinking, could I do something myself? So even back then, I was thinking, where could I go on my own that would give me a bit of control over where I was heading.
Yeah, so you went from there to, honestly, like, it's not even like me not being able to, but it's people know, like, me being dyslexic, right? I honestly struggle I can write down these words, but saying words is just not very good. It's Edgin Murray, is that right?
That's perfect, yeah. Edgin Murray, yeah. That's it.
Honestly, nailed. That was one I was like, what on earth does that say? So you were there for like 9 years. So is this the company that after you moved from, like, the job we just spoke about, is that with this company, or was that with the previous company?
The gap. I mean,
yeah.
No, the gap was with the previous company. I moved into the Edgin Murray role quite quickly, actually. I think I finished up around the Christmas time, and I was in position by mid-February for Edgin Murray. And that was a bit of a culture shock, because that was like the previous jobs had been where I was, I'd say, comfortable. Like, I knew my stuff. I was technically and product-wise, I knew exactly what I was doing with all the print works. And I think moving into the Edgin Murray position, it was a much bigger change, I'd say, because it was steel rather than print, so it was a completely different industry. I was starting really at the bottom of the ladder in terms of the teams that I was in. So I'd gone from kind of running a 250 strong people business to being a kind of junior, really. That was where I started out, as a project coordinator. So kind of just really doing, I don't want to say menial tasks, it's not menial, but it was quite basic processes of how you move steel through different countries or different customers.
So was this, like, what made you stop being involved in printing and things like that and go to steel? Or was that just because of, like you were saying, the company just went under and you were like, you know what, I kind of want to just change careers? Was that kind of that? Or
I think the concern was, I've been in 3 different print companies, and the way print was going was it was contracting. So there was, like, a lot of big companies were kind of hoovering up all the different work, and it was going in a direction where you didn't really have that middle range company like I was working for. And I think the next move that I made in print may not have worked out. You know, there was already companies doing, and they already had people in positions. I just started looking at other options, and I got lucky, to be honest. The HR person who worked in Summerhall was also working for Edgin Murray, so they saw that I'd been made redundant and contacted me and said that the position might be a good option for you. So it was just a bit of luck, I think, moving into that role, because I tried in different industries before, and it's actually quite difficult to move industries, particularly when, certainly at a particular level, it becomes at that mid-range management level, you know, senior level, CEO level, director level, maybe it's maybe a bit more of an option, but middle range management, it's not an easy move, because you're not bringing that knowledge. All you're basically bringing is your managerial experience. That's it. So just got a bit of luck.
Yeah, exactly. What before we get into your current, because you have a business now, but what made, and I don't know if this is a silly question or not, but what made you not want to start your own kind of printing business? I know after what you've just said, but still though, what made you not want to start your own printing business?
It's really capital intensive. So, you know, the technology that you use in print is it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to invest in it.
All right,
So
okay.
it's quite a high value to actually be able to do it. It's quite high value, and then premises that. So it would have been too big a jump, I think, unless there was a back end. There was a multiple people. I wasn't in that kind of position where I could invest that kind of money.
Yeah, right, okay. Because you moved are you still in Aitken Money just now?
Yeah, so I'm still working for Aitken Money just now. Yeah.
You
so
moved.
The company itself is going to be wound up at some point. I'm there until June this year, so I'll be another 5 months working full time for them, and then working on my new business evenings, weekends, basically.
Wow, and you were saying you have like obviously you have like a family and things like that as well. So
Yeah.
before we get into the business side of it, how do you manage to like juggle your time then? Because with the business, work, family, how do you manage to like put everything together?
Often very late nights. I think it's a bit of, you have to have backing from your partner. So my wife Sharon is very enthusiastic about business, but also supportive in what I'm doing. But there's no doubt it's difficult. If you're trying to do something, particularly things like working from home and stuff, it's tough. But you're trying to make sure you've got enough time, kids, enough time with my wife, but also trying to build branding, websites, everything, to kind of move it on. But also, I'm contracted to make sure that the work that I've got to do for Edge of Money is complete as well. So I've got to focus on that as well. It's tough. It's not that it's difficult, but it's still quite rewarding, I think.
Yeah, it must be like quite rewarding as well, because obviously when, as everybody knows, when you're at a job and you get told that, your work's really good, it obviously makes you feel good, makes you feel like you're doing the right thing. But then when you have a business and it's actually doing what you wanted to do or anything like that, it's way more rewarding. Like it's a whole nother ballgame. So, but yeah, it must be hard to juggle like an actual business and I know for a fact it's hard to judge business and a work, but business and a family, that's but I suppose as long as, like you're saying, as long as you've got support and they'll know what you're trying to do as well, trying to build like a better life for them and things. I mean, it's that side of it as well. But now you have it is my football hire.
Yes.
Do you want to, this is your own business, do you want to explain a little bit about what it is you do and stuff?
Yeah. So the simple explanation is, I've worked with some partners to bring products to Scotland for hire, and it's products that I've looked to bring are technology-based football products. So the products that are already out there, and they're already kind of being promoted by the companies that make them, and they're already in professional clubs around the world, but they're not really that prominent in Scotland at the moment. And the aim is really to try and bring the technology side to as many people as possible in Scotland in different levels, whether it's age groups or standards or organisations. And what I've tried to do is work with the owners of the technology and partner with them to so it makes sense to them as well as to me. So it's very much kind of working alongside them rather than against them. But a lot of the products are so expensive that a normal person would to necessarily use them or have access to them. So even though there's a lot of pro clubs particularly down south that are using these products, they're not necessarily accessible. And that's really what the aim is, try and make them a bit more accessible.
Yeah. So like you're saying the technology side of football, so is that like the practice simulators and things like that, or is it something else?
So everything I've got is linked to either training or personal data. So it's either building up different techniques for training, or it's measuring the outcomes you're doing. So, for instance, I work a lot with VR for virtual reality, and the Reso products that I'm working with they're basically designed for cognitive training. So it's not necessarily building on your technique. it's working on things, scanning, awareness, information processing. So it's very targeted to that kind of aspect of the game, which isn't very easy to do in a normal training session. There are ways to do it, but what the virtual reality gives you is a much more flexible platform.
Yeah, so like the virtual reality, I know from playing, I know this is like completely different in football, but I know from playing games, it's crazy. But so I'm curious as well, what made you want to go from not starting your own business? Because I realize that everybody kind of wants to do that once they found like their niche, and clearly you found your niche, but what made you want to start your own business in this sort of sector? I know you're saying it's to make it accessible, but still though, what made you want to do that?
I think when I realised that I was going to be moving on from Edge of Murray this year, I started thinking about what I really wanted to do. And I think, to be fair, the previous times I've been made redundant, I was a bit younger, family was a bit younger, I had a different mentality, I think. Whereas this time round, I've been with the business for 9 years. I really sat and thought, I think as well with COVID and working from home, I just had a slightly different outlook on things. And I think when I sat and thought about it, I just thought about, well, what actually makes me happy, what actually would I enjoy doing. And football is that. I've been involved in football all my life, and it's the sort of thing that if I could find a way to be involved in football, then I think that would really, like, even just doing coaching courses with SFA, really enjoyed doing it. Just the process of learning a bit more about coaching, having a bit of playing football as well. It just made me think that, is there something that I could do within football that would then generate a career out of it? And I don't necessarily mean moving into management of a club or anything like that, but just something along the edges, coaching wise, product wise. I started thinking a bit more about how training actually works and whether or not there could be things that could improve a player in a different way to what's there just now. And the outcome of that was really My Football Hire, but there are other ideas in the background which I'm thinking about as a long-term future. But the first step, because it was all about what could I invest realistically, what was it prepared to risk? Because anybody starting their own business is you need to be prepared to risk something. So in this case, it's kind of putting money in for the initial investment, and then putting your time in for getting the products out there and getting people using them. And it's just balancing that kind of the level of risk that you're willing to take to start it. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's it's a lot more. It's quite admirable, to be honest, especially now that, like you're saying, like COVID's coming over and things like that. A lot of people are starting their own business, whether it may be like something that's completely irrelevant, or like you're saying, like something that can actually improve things. Like we're moving into such a technology-based culture. Zoom's another one. Like Zoom's not been around it's not been around for not long, but like not a long amount of years. So I mean, the fact that like it's progressively moving into that, you're effectively like seeing a market that's opening up, for example, in Scotland, and then progressing that way. But so say like such a cliche question. I was waiting to say, what's your 5-year plan? But what's your future plan? What would you say is like your future plan for the business, or even for yourself? What's your long goal?
I think step one is really earn a living out of it. I think that's the basic level, return the investment and earn a living out of it, so that I know the business is viable at that kind of early stage. And that's the first step. Second step is it's got such a wide varied potential. Having a My Football Hire in each city across the UK, that's kind of aspirational, but is it realistic? It's definitely something I've thought about. But the first step is to prove the model here in Edinburgh and around central Scotland, and then make sure that business model is scalable. And then if it is, then that's the next step, is to figure out how to scale it. But at the moment, it's really making sure that it's viable first.
Yeah, yeah. Would you be looking to move into like other sports, for example? I know it's like rugby or golf or anything like that as well.
Yeah. There was a long discussion about how, my football hire came about because it was my love of football, but there was a lot of discussion about, is it too niche? Is it too, because some of the products are actually, you could quite easily move into different aspects, just general fitness as well. So things like blaze pods, smart goals, VR is easily movable into different areas. Um, but I think the first step was having a credible brand and making sure that it was understandable. These products are in football, um, and I had to make a decision about what I was wanting to invest in. And these products are not out there in Scotland just now, so it was very much a decision about keeping it contained just now, but definitely thinking, well, what could you do after that? In terms of hire of technology products, there's very few people out there doing what I'm doing. In fact, the insurance company told me nobody doing what I'm doing in the grand scheme. There's people hiring out individual products, but not multi products, and not in the way that I'm doing it. So it's just it's definitely there's definitely angles that I could take that would bring in different technologies in the same way, because there's other technologies out there which for different sports, which again are not necessarily accessible to an amateur player or a youth player or somebody who's maybe coming back from injury or something like that. They maybe can't get access to those technologies just simply because of the cost. Professional elite players can use them because the clubs have got X amount of cash, but doesn't mean that a Sunday league team can use a technology in the same way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like bringing what's expensive to the masses. I mean, it's good for you, to be honest with you, because it's like you don't get that now a lot of days. There's not a lot of investment in like young sport. I know there is investment, but there's not really considering what there should be, especially when it comes to like pay and all this sort of stuff as well. But with having your own business, right? Do you ever think you should watch? Not do you ever think, you personally, do you think what you should watch what you post on social media when it comes to having your own business? I'm not talking about like your business's page, like your own, if you use social media that way, your own personal page, because you kind of do like represent the business in a way. What's your opinion on that one?
Yeah, I mean, social media has obviously grown massively. It's something that I've had to get to grips with, because I've been somebody on LinkedIn and on Facebook personally, but other than that, that's it. I wasn't on Twitter, I wasn't on Instagram. So in terms of representing, I've had to generate these sites and then generate content. And of course, when I'm putting things out there, I'm the owner of the business, so I'm trying to present my own brand and my own, and also things have changed. So when I first set up the sites, the feeling of how I wanted to brand the business and present the business has kind of developed across the last 3-4 months. So I think you have to watch it. I think you have to really embrace it, because it's life. That's the way people interact. That's the way people view things, whether it's news or whether it's personal content or business content. And it's just, you have to, if you're in your own business, you have to understand it. You have to build up your knowledge of how it works, how ads work, how some of the methodology behind it works, hashtags, and making sure that the right information is going to the right people. And I think if you don't look at it, if you don't watch it, then you're not going to build up that knowledge, I don't think.
Yeah,
it's hard as well. I've probably struggled over the last few months of putting more personality in it. It's fine putting a brand out there, but something like this is new to me, where I'm putting a face to the brand or putting myself out there. And I know other entrepreneurs who are doing the same thing, and I think it's something you've just got to embrace. You've just got to try and get on board with it.
Yeah, the thing is as well, it's like and obviously, I appreciate you. We're not finishing, but like I appreciate you coming on in that and putting a face. But what another reason I wanted, because I'll say this while we're recording, another reason wanted, and I seen your business is quite new as well. I was like, I wonder if his face is on it, because a lot of people will probably, you know, watch this and then come to you and be like, look, you know, now we actually know who you are, because we wanted to figure out who you are as a person. And that's why I say to people, sometimes having like a brand social media page and then a personal one, and, you know, even linking it in your bio and all this sort of stuff, people are like, but why do you, it's like, because people sometimes be like, I wonder who that guy actually is. It's fair enough saying it, but who is he actually? It's just putting a, as you said yourself, and quite rightfully, putting a face to the brand is something that probably will help change things as well, to be honest with you.
I think as well, when you're the, you know, at the moment I'm a sole trader, the next 6 months I'd hope to get to a limited company, but when you're a sole trader, it's your business, you're the one that's driving it. Yes, you might have input from other people and things, but, you know, without getting your personality across in the business, then what is it that you're trying to get across? You're just getting across a brand. You know, it's something that I'm working on just now with my website, for example. I'd get everything designed for my website, but then as I've moved through different stages of business, now I'm looking at, well, how do I get myself into the website and present myself in a particular way? So it's kind of, it is tied into that, I think.
Yeah. It's really fatigue. And again, if you need I'll say it's on, if you need any help with that, feel free to let me know. I'm fully able to help you with that one. Something that you know, especially with your business as well, it's like, I think like maybe even like the way the website, even like tutorial things, and there's lots of like different avenues that you can go down. And again, I can easily help you with that anytime you want. But now with your business, and with like, once you're you said, when was it you said you were leaving Aitken Murray?
End of June.
End of June. Okay, so towards the end of June and July and so on, and that, when you have your own business, how are you then going to, because it's obviously, I understand it's hard to do it, juggle it just now, but because obviously you have a job, monthly paycheck or week, whatever it is, but when you're actually working for yourself 100% completely, how are you going to spread your time then? Because you're probably more enticed to work because you don't work, you don't get paid, but then you'll have to like juggle. How do you plan, or have you not thought that?
Well, I've thought about it, and I think again, the trick is going to be time management, because I'm working evenings and weekends, or taking holidays where I need to, if there's camps or if there's festivals. But basically, once I'm full time in it, there's a mixture of different tasks that need done. Any business, doesn't matter if you're a sole trader or whatever, you've still got a lot of the background stuff you need to do. So you still need to kind of maintain your social media. You still need to do your accounts. You still need to develop sales and develop links and feeds and things like that. So you're still kind of doing all those things, and then going and doing sessions with teams. You know, the Friday sessions I've got with players coming to Dynamo Hub. So it's you're trying to build up each element of it. And I think there'll be times during the day where I'm just doing sales, just trying to build up contacts. Times where I'm just, you know, developing new technologies where I can maybe bring different offers to people. Or also, you know, because these technologies are so new, there's not basically the products themselves are brilliant. But I think when you're bringing it to things public or teams, what I've had to really do is work on what is the product I'm offering. So the product itself is one thing, but how are they going to use it? How are they going to get the most out of it and the best value for it? So that's something that it'll take time when I'm working for time as well, because I'll have to sit and work out, you know, training plans, tutorials, as you said, how do things work, making sure that the data that's generated from all these different products fits with a personal development plan for somebody. You know, because all the data that's coming in from these different products, how do you then interpret them into an improvement plan for a player? Targeting different attributes that you're trying to improve in a player. Have you got the baseline set? Have you set what target you're going to try and achieve with that player? And then is that player understanding the different things you've got to do to be able to achieve that target? That's the kind of things that I'll be doing during the day, I think, in the future.
So then, obviously, I take it you'll be looking to hire employees and things like that as well. Is that something that you'd be doing maybe like towards the end of this year, or is that something you're like, no, as soon as you go full time, or you want to like take somebody on then, or what's your
I think there'll be different stages. There'll be kind of temporary stages where I'm building up maybe an additional coach, coming in for the training sessions, potentially multiple coaches to help in camps or festivals. So there'll be different levels. I think the step of actually employing somebody will be possibly, if I get to that point by the end of the year, then I would be delighted if it's gone well enough to get to that point, because that means I'm then growing it again. Because it would be great to have, another person, potentially another person who's working in the same way as me.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we all have I don't know what other people call it, but I call it the judgment day scenario. So it's just like, if everything doesn't work out, what on earth are you going to do? If this, I know it's not, well, a lot of people say it's not actually good to have this because you should never have a plan two, but I don't believe in that. I believe you should always have an idea of something that if this doesn't work out, I can go back to this, or I can do this, or I can do this. If my football hire doesn't work, do you have a plan of where you want to be or where you want to go, or are you just like, no, I'm like too determined to make it work?
Yeah, I'm all in on this. So I'm determined to make it work, and I do believe in it. Obviously, businesses fail for different reasons. The objective at the moment is to get past the end of June, and then give it an opportunity to work. Because I'm not being full time in it yet. So give it a chance to really develop over the 6 months between June and the end of the year, and then really between that period start making decisions about where the business might go. Because once I've got 6 months under my belt working full time in it, I'll know I'll know if it's going to work or not, I think. But then there's other opportunities that I need to consider between June and the end of the year as well. Is there other avenues where it can supplement what I'm doing with hire potentially, if I feel like I need it, just with experience that I've got and things that I've done before, I could potentially consultancy or something to keep me going if I need while I'm making it work. But I've not got a particular plan. My plan is to put everything into the business as much as I can, and make it work. I think that's where I'm at.
Good, yeah, good. To be honest, it's a good thing. I always feel like it's good, as I said before, it's good to have like a judgment day thing, but at the end of the day, it's not, that's a personal opinion. That's not I would never like say to people that other people should do it. I just do it for like a mental sake and all this sort of stuff. But people quite right, to be fair. I think that's something that like people don't do enough of, as I say that literally myself. But I think that it's something that people don't throw themselves into something. They kind of like shy away from it, things like that. But it's not a well, it's kind of a developed skill, to be honest, but it's not really. It's kind of like a mentality. Where did this come from? Like, you're able to like fully throw yourself and believe in you. I know it's a strange question, but not a lot of people actually believe in themselves enough to make businesses or to make the move. They're always like, nah, I'd rather have that little thing. What made you like, have the ability to be like, just throw yourself into subjects? Does that come from maybe like parents or something or like that, or is that just general in you?
Yeah, I think that's quite astute. I think it's definitely something that's inbuilt in me with, where my parents have worked across their life, worked in exactly the same way. My dad, when he retired from Chancellor Mill, immediately went and started his own electrical business himself. So I think that's influenced me as well. And I think just ingrained in my psyche is that I throw myself into the work that I do. I get a lot out of developing. Doesn't matter what I've done, whether it's been printing or steel or my football hire. It's been about giving it everything, making sure that I'm not kind of doing it in half measures, and that's the way I've been for probably high school, at least, I would say high school, maybe not with exams and things like that. It's been there's been a bit more leeway there, but certainly from uni onwards, just with the kind of influence, people that have influenced me have contributed to that as well. I would
Good.
From uni.
Yeah, I was just speaking of uni actually. See, like obviously we're getting in the UCAS deadline has passed because it was the 26th. I think I put my application in 26th. But what's your opinion on like going to uni and things like that? Because obviously I believe in it, because I think a degree and an outlet like something like this, for example, is good. But what's your opinion on people that are going to uni or are very like unsure of going to uni because like I don't know if this is going to contribute to my future, and it seems to be a little thing, even though most people, I would say, that I know that are kind of what it depends. Obviously, successful is obviously relative. Some people, it's waking up in the morning. Some people, it's making a lot of money. But a lot of people that I know that are in those positions did go to uni. So what's your opinion on that? Do you think people should go to uni, or?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. I think there's a lot of people that I know that haven't gone to uni that have been immensely successful. So I think it's down to the person. Some people will like to continue their education into university, and for lots of different reasons. Maybe they're not ready to start work yet. Maybe they're just not ready, whether it's maturity or prefer just to keep going before really getting into the rest of their working life. Equally, there's people that have gone straight from school, 16-year-olds, and really carved out a really good career for themselves, long-term career. So I don't think there's a necessarily right or wrong answer. But for me, university offers a lot of different avenues, whether it's to do with the social aspect or whether it's to do with, it's not so much the subjects, but it's how you actually move your way through each subject that you're learning in university, like how you research, how you can problem solve, or how you can formulate your ideas and your arguments about what a particular subject you're working on. So I think that's what maybe triggers people to move on with their career if they've gone to university in a different way to people who maybe haven't gone to university. They've got that kind of analytical mindset, and trying to really dig out arguments to present rather than just accepting what's there.
Yeah, I suppose you can call me a mature student. My history is kind of crazy, to be honest with you. With leaving, I got asked to leave school halfway through fifth year when I was 18. I'm 28, 7 now, 27, and then I left and then went on the doors and then started a security company. But that's just because of like the people I was around at that time. So I think I've only ever worked for somebody for 8 months or something like that, truly. But and I got asked, that people were saying, you're going to uni now and all sorts of stuff. What was your opinion? And my opinion is that, yeah, I think you should. Like, it's obviously, like you said, it's very selective and things like that. But I think people should, because the people that I know that have went to uni, I know you're saying you're the same as me. You know people that have been successful, but I think uni kind of like it's different, because like with college, I feel like with school, it's dependent on teachers. They teach you. That's it. With college, it's very like you're kind of like not babied in a sense, but you kind of like they're always there. They're always on your back. Do you remember do this? Do you remember do that? And then when I've spoken to people that went to uni, they're like, if you literally don't do the work, nobody's going to be on your back. Like, no, because they're not bothered about people that are just there for that. They're bothered about the people that are actually working and concentrating hard. And I feel that's kind of like life, really. Like it's like that in a job. Like, for example, yourself, if you weren't, necessarily concentrating on something, it would go down. Like the business would go down, but you have to be on the ball. But that's learning that from uni and things. If I'm making sense there.
No, absolutely. And I was in second year of uni, so I did an honours course. In the second year of uni, I would say I was in the bracket of not taking care of what I was doing. I was having too good a time, to be honest. But what changed things, I would say, is as a mature student. There was a mature student in our group who, name checking, called Robert, who's a good friend of mine now. He we were all kind of 18, 19 years old, and he was about 32. And he came in to the course, I think, after the first year. And I would say having somebody there who had a different mindset. So he was basically there for he was trying to develop himself for his career. He was much more mature, and he kind of set the example of what you needed to do to be successful at university. And that kind of changed over second year into third year. That really changed my outlook. Properly kind of knuckled down, made sure I was doing my work, etc. And that's really continued, because that's what got me through university. That influence was somebody coming in who had a completely different mindset. And I think you get that at university. You can get that outside of university as well. You can have people who influence you. But definitely for me, I needed somebody coming in who wasn't going through it at 18, 19, definitely.
Yeah, and then, you know, as we've got, I call myself a mature student, but again, you know, we've got an older guy, and then we've got somebody even older than him, and it's a strange one, because you still see, you know, it's a weird way, it's a strange way to put it, but you still see yourself. The point, a good way to put it, right, just to be completely honest, is that you see the more successful people relating to older people, if I'm just putting it, because they're like, I can learn life lessons, like you just said, I can learn life lessons from them. And then you still see the other ones that are just like playing about, not doing much, not really asking many questions to yeah, I think having older people in your course is actually a good thing, like in all my opinions. Yeah, and I think, like, if I had that, what I used to do, everything would be a little bit different. But you know, can't really talk about security company much, because it's still, yeah, still some stuff going on with that. But anyway, we you know, something I'm curious about as well is, like I said, I really wanted to ask you some questions and just about certain things, and everybody will know the questions I'm going to ask. But have you ever had to like face your fears before? And if you have, how did you, you know, how did you then use what you learned from the first one into the next one? And I don't mean like the classic one. I don't mean like being scared of spiders and all that. Like, we all hate spiders. Like, we all hate spiders. But what's that? Not phobia is the word. Not phobia. Like an actual fear of whether that be starting a business, or whether that be, like, a lot of people don't have, like, they don't have confidence. They just do not have it whatsoever. So what was your fear, and then how did you learn from it?
It's I wouldn't have necessarily described it as a fear. It's at the start, but when I was doing, back in the days of Buildings and Bodies, I was doing a lot of kind of new environmental management work. So it was all relating to recycling, you know, reducing electricity, climate change, etc. And that was back in, I don't know, 2003. So it was kind of, although there was legislation and stuff, there was, the management system were quite new. And that then led to working with Business Environmental Partnership, Inkylesconvo, and they were brilliant. But what they did was they brought companies in to try and show kind of what they'd done. And my MD at the time, Gordon Sampson, he was very quick to push me into those kind of situations where I was sharing what we'd done within Buildings and Wilson. And it meant that Business Environment Partnership asked me along to do a talk at an auditorium in the EICC. Now, I'd never done, you know, any kind of major feature. I'd, you know, talked to people within the company, maybe in groups of 10 or 12, doing training and things like that, but I've never done a speech in front of people. So it really put me out of my comfort zone at kind of 22 years old. And so I had to prepare a presentation for 250 people, and then go up on the podium and do this speech. And it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But and midway through it, I completely lost my place. My mind went completely blank. I couldn't see what I'd done. So even the previous slide, the previous notes that I'd taken, completely lost my place. So I managed to get through it. Say that experience, kind of going and doing that, I could equally have turned around to him and said, no, I don't fancy that. But by doing it, I'd say it improved how I then looked at different things in the future. So whether it's, you know, doing more complex presentations in front of people, or whether it, you know, best man speech at my brother's wedding. It just made things a little bit easier because you'd already gone through quite a painful experience. I'd say by facing that, and it was a fear. I think when you're going into that, you're definitely sitting there going, not happy. It's not a pleasant experience when you do it for the first time. But
Yeah, now, going from fear onto obstacles. See when like an obstacle comes in your way, how do you deal with that? And a little bit of context is that a lot of people, when they get obstacles coming in their way, they get very like stressed and anxious. Well, you'll naturally get stressed and anxious, and they'll lose sleep and stuff like that. But obviously there's like other ways of dealing with that. But how about yourself? When you have obstacles come your way, how do you deal with them?
I think professionally rather than personally, I would say very calm and methodical. I would say more than I tend not to panic. I tend to kind of work the problem. So if I've got something which needs to be addressed, then I typically try and get a full understanding of what it is that needs to happen, and then work through a process. So if there's people that need to be spoken to, people that need to be influenced or worked with, then you keep working through each step until you get to a conclusion. And I'd say that's how I've gone about most of my professional career is kind of calm, professional, methodical, and ultimately find a solution. And that, I think some of that just comes in confidence and vulnerability, is being able to work the problem with people. Personally, sometimes not so much. Personally, it's more, you kind of find things that are sitting in your personal life that you maybe don't sort as quickly as you do in your professional life, but it's a different kind of mentality, I think, with you personally.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because I was curious. I was like, I wonder if that's transferable into his personal life, because for a lot of people, I would say for about 90% of people I've spoken to, whether that be on the show or anything like that, it's completely different. Like they deal with stuff differently, but it's hard because you can't. It's not that you can't treat somebody the same, because that's not the way I'm meaning it. It's that it seems easier to do it in a professional way, but when actually it's probably the harder way to do it, you're just making it seem easy. There's loads of like different things to it, but a question I haven't really asked in a while, actually, just seeing it there, is that, and I think it'll be a good note to finish off on, is that what's your what would, just you personally, what would you say is your biggest flaw professionally and personally?
Wow, that's a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
Personally, I think probably just trying to please everybody, I think, is probably the thing that like sometimes you can let things go that maybe wouldn't in your professional life. Most of the time that's to kind of keep relationships smooth or whatever. But in different scenarios in your professional life, you wouldn't necessarily let that go. But professionally, I would say probably taking on too much, maybe, is one of the things that's happened across my working career. Is like I've been, in terms of volume of work, I always end up with a huge amount on the plate. And sometimes you're trying to work through different scenarios, but that's probably something that that's happened throughout my career. Is at times I've had to delegate a lot through different roles.
Yeah, well, and hang on, so sometimes that when you delegate jobs to people, that's because you believe that person can do it, and you never know what, like, it's, for example, if you give somebody we'll just say like a bit of paperwork, because it's easy relatable for a lot of people. If you give someone a bit of paperwork, that might boost that person's confidence to be like, he clearly believes in me and so on. So it's actually a good thing you do that in a way, to be honest. But, and as for your, you were saying that pleasing everybody, that I can relate, but the people that you're trying to please are probably like super happy the fact you're busy in that. Like, it's always, what's the saying? It's like your biggest supporter is your most silent supporter, or something like that. There's something along those lines. It's like they'll never really tell you how much they're thinking you, because they don't want to put like pressure and stuff. But yeah, it's I think that's something that, like, you can never really please everybody. you know, as they
No,
say, you
no.
can try, but you can. Nobody's ever going to be completely happy with everyone. It just doesn't happen. But yeah, now, you know, as I said, I was going to end on that, but the question I think I should end on is that now that you've, you know, started your own business, and now that you're, you know, moving full time in it, and obviously you know exactly what it takes. Like clearly you're very set in it, and quite right, to be honest with you, good for you. But somebody that isn't so set in it is like, you know what, I'm in my job, I'm quite comfortable, I've got a, you know, because a lot of people get paid weekly now, so I've got a weekly paycheck coming in and everything's nice, but I really want to start my own business, but I don't know. What would you say to somebody like that?
I think evaluate the risks in quite a cold way, I would say as well. Like not, you've got to look at it in a way that isn't emotional and isn't linked to something that's going to prevent you doing that. So really set down the facts and set down where the risks are, and really make sure that you're clear on what it is that you're going to go do. And I know that's not easy, but I would say that that's the bit that if you're starting your business, things like business plans are there for a reason, but also just being really methodical in picking out the areas, whether it's for marketing for customers, whether it's products that you're going to, or services that you're going to offer, and really try and work through different scenarios, how it would actually work, and test whether it's something that you think can be viable. Because if you believe in it, then you'll go for it. If you can evaluate the risks are manageable, and you believe in what you're going to go and do, and you've got the experience, or you've got the ability to do it, then it's one of the best things ever to have that control over your own business.
Yeah, exactly. To have the control over your future and your money and stuff is, as they said, as you know, a lot of people have said, I should say, is that when you earn, even if it's like 10 pence of your own money, it's unbelievable how great that feels, because it's like, wow, it's fair enough working for somebody and get paid X amount, but it's a weird feeling unless you've actually done it. Like when you actually earn money from your own company or business, it feels like as I said, 10 pence can feel like £1,000. It's so strange. You're like, wow, this is really weird. I finally got paid and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, you know, I do want to thank you coming on, because it's very like, it's everybody, as I say to everybody I choose to come on, and I've been asked before. I know you didn't. People don't ask, but I get asked from certain people, like, you know, why do you choose me and all sort of stuff, and it's because like I feel like I can always learn stuff from people like yourself and that, but I feel like other people can also learn stuff. So hopefully, like, people have learned, and it would be great to hear, like, if you guys have taken the initiative to then after this being like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to go for it. It's 2022 and all this sort of stuff. Like, you know, you definitely let me know. It'd be good to hear. But I always like to get people's social media. It doesn't need to be your own. It can be it'll be your business's ones, because it's great to like promote them on this and promote them on my actual social media pages. So what is your Instagram and Twitter pages?
Everything's at MyFootballHire, so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the TikTok, YouTube, everything's MyFootballHire, so it's all quite clean. So, and then obviously I'm Chris Aitken, so I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, and so yeah, again, you were very lucky to get your exact company name on all your social media. It's great, and I do hope you are successful in that, and I definitely will be paying attention, considering we're on LinkedIn. I'll have you on social media and that. And for everybody watching, I do appreciate it. And also, I heard as well is that, I know I've said this probably 3 times now, but because I keep getting told new stuff. Apparently, we're now on Breaker as well. Whatever that is, I don't know. But apparently, it's like another version of Spotify you can sign up to and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, so if you want to listen on that, you can find it and listen to it. If not, just Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for your time, Chris, again.
Thanks very much, Kev. Cheers.